Hi everyone, welcome to PyPodcasts, the Hidden Figures of Python podcast series. The PyPodcasts, it's a podcast highlighting voices from the underrepresented group members of the Python community. So we do have a code of conduct that is following the PSF code of conduct. And if you're interested to know more, you can always check out our website. Very excited to be back because this is 2025, probably the first guest for our 2025 podcast. My name is Georgie, and I'm one of the Pi Podcasts host, and I'm based in Amsterdam. Also, one of the PSF director of the board. And to you, Marietta.
Hi, everybody. I'm excited that we are resuming the Pi Podcast series. My name is Marietta. I'm based in Vancouver, Canada, and I'm in the Python community. I've been contributing for many years as an open source contributor. I'm also one of the Python core developers, and I'm also involved in the PyLadies community. Our guest today is Tamara. Tamara, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm also really excited to be the first guest for 2025. So I'm Tamara. I am currently an open source software engineer. That's my title at a company called probabl. Probabl is the brand ambassador for scikit-learn. And my job there is I work in the open source team, so I'm sponsored to work on open source packages. One of my jobs includes maintaining Fairlearn, that I hope we're going to talk about a bit more later about. And I do contribute to scikit-learn, and I've contributed to another package recently called Scops. At the same time, some of my time in the week goes to research that's going to become a master thesis. I am part of a program that's mainly about computational linguistics, but also has some cognitive science. Yes, that's me at the moment. I've also been involved, I guess, in the Python community for over a decade. So there's a lot different. Yes, since 2012. It's been a bit.
Wow.
It's been a while. Yeah.
That's crazy. So, yeah, you were just talking about Fairlearn. So, what is Fairlearn about? It sounds like a game for me with the name.
Learning Fair. Yeah, so Fairlearn is I guess the best way to describe it is a toolkit, is a library that it provides tools for data scientists to work on increase the AI safety of their applications. So I think if we don't go too deep, we can think of Fairlearn as a library that provides metrics and also provides a specific kind of methods for assessment and mitigation of unfairness in this case, but it is based on a specific type of fairness, which is group fairness. And what does that mean? I think it's important to address is that we have tools for people to evaluate how a model would perform for different groups of people. And in Fairlearn, we call this groups of people sensitive features, but they can be any kind of subgroup that you want to make sure the algorithm or the model performs fair for. We can think of any examples like sex or race or any really combination of these subgroups as well. This is based on something called disaggregated evaluation, and these are the metrics and the other methods help with.
Do you have any case study of a company or a project that uses Fairlearn?
I love this question because it's an interesting problem that we have. We do really love working on this, and it's part of my the research to also read papers around these methods. But one of the core problems is that a lot of the people who do use the library, and there are plenty, because I think in December there were 500,000 downloads.
Whoa!
Is that yes, it's big, and it's interesting that it's really hard to get any data about it. And this is as somebody that's just getting in this area from an academic standpoint, I wasn't in it before. I learned from the senior researchers that a lot of the companies do not really want to discuss the usage of these kinds of tools and would definitely not make any of their data sets available. But if you go on the website, I think this is one of the biggest, despite the excellent metrics and really careful editorial decisions that are made, and we really do not add anything that's hasn't been mindfully vetted in a sense. One of the biggest things that we focus on is education. So if somebody opens the website, there is a place with example notebooks. And there in the example notebooks, there is one white paper that was made by Microsoft, who started the library many years ago, but now it's community led. Ernst and Young, if I pronounce that right, that worked on credit fairness in the States between male and female applicants. And it's a really interesting case study to read. Of course, one can assume there are constantly this kind of scandals coming out in the open. You could assume that somebody uses something somewhere. Sometimes people from governments or from different institutions come to our community calls, which are, by the way, open for everyone. They happen every second week at 6 p.m. Berlin time. I don't know what is that in other time zones. It's easily, people can easily find it on the website. The time zone problem. Most of the people that contribute or come from the US, so they always say their time, and I always forget because I'm in Europe, in Berlin. Yes, so that's a very interesting question. And if anybody's listening to this that's using Fairlearn, we have a survey that we just recently made. One of our maintainers, Michael, created it for this specific purpose because we are a bit in the dark. We would like to serve the community better, but we would need the community to be brave to talk to us about how they use the tools.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Share the link with us. Maybe we'll share it when we
Thank you.
publish
That
this
would be
episode.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people who use Fairlearn, share how you actually use it.
Yeah.
That would be
I
really
find
great.
it's interesting. Do you think people hesitant to share? Like they don't want to tell that they are using Fairlearn, or what is there a reason they are not?
I think a lot of the models will have maybe non-ideal results. Now, this is
Mm.
another interesting question. So one thing is to
Mhm.
assess unfairness. You would start, for example, with defining your sensitive groups and understanding what your specific use case is. It always has to be specific. And then you would pick the right metric. The different metrics like demographic parity of equal odds. You can assume what they mean maybe by the name, or we can discuss them. But after that, you can use some of these to assess how the model works in case of demographic parity, for example. Is this, equal for the demographics involved? But the mitigation itself, we do provide some tools for mitigation in the library, and there are many, many other ways to do mitigation. But mitigation, it's really not easy. It's a very case-to-case basis. And the answer might be in your data, in adjusting your predictions, in balancing some other ways. There are other ways of mitigating with intermediate representations and so on. It can get pretty complicated, but only you can do this in your own use case. And it's not easy to do after you've set up everything to redo,
Right.
because fairness has to be from the very beginning considered when you create a product or a model. It has to, the idea of it being fair has to be woven into the whole process. And I think a lot of people maybe, yes, they assess at the end and then I don't know what they do.
Right. What if, like, halfway through they say, "Oh, actually, I forgot something that we should actually add on to it." What do they do?
I don't know. I would like to know what people do. I recently became a part of a very, very big Slack channel, and I was asking people, "Hi, how do you use fairness tools? Please tell me something." Nobody told me anything still, but maybe somebody
Mm.
will.
Okay. Yeah. Hopefully, we get to share your survey, and so hopefully you get responses and you get to learn
Yeah.
more about the
I do
users.
believe there are some, maybe like big companies have idea about this in their own internal teams and senior researchers, but you cannot say anything about this.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah.
So let's bring it all the way to the beginning. Like, we are here talking about the Python community. So I'm actually kind of interested to know how you actually started using Python.
Yeah, so Python wasn't the first language that I work with. I started during my studies in the late 2000s. They didn't really teach Python at universities. We studied C and C++, I believe. And then I did my first Google Summer of Code, contributed to Gnome. It was in C and GTK, if I remember. It was
Wow.
2011. And then I was also very politically active at the time. And it was time for the second GSOC. And then I was, okay, I want to do something that's really specific about citizen participation and works really, really directly addresses, not indirectly as any open source would, but directly addresses a political issue. And I
Mm.
found a small project from Spain called e-cidadania. I don't know if I pronounced that right now. I in Spanish, but it was a citizen participation platform exactly, and it was. In the time, it used Django and JavaScript to create this little Kanban-like discussion, if I can describe it now. And it was supposed to be used by the local government, if I remember right, to increase the participation of the local people who live there. And we worked on that. It was really fun. And then I think I just never stopped working with Python because I learned Django and I felt so empowered. I can do anything now. It's
Wow. Yeah.
because Django was wow, this kind of frameworks in 2012, 2013. I was like, I can build any website I want. And then I also had a
Yeah.
job at a think tank. I worked at a think tank as a software engineer. I had a little team, and we did projects that were meant for to increase either awareness or address social issues. It was really still my favorite job so many years after. And this is I could directly just use my skills there, and I felt just yes, and I still do Python.
That's very cool. And I love that. I think we need to highlight that quote just now. Like with Django, you feel so empowered.
I did. I really
Oh
did.
my.
I remember thinking,
Yeah.
I can do
Yeah.
everything now.
I know. I'm a big fan of the Django web framework myself. That's what I also use professionally. So, and I totally
Uh-huh.
agree. Like, I mean, right now I'm personally like I'm trying to replace all my spreadsheets with Django. I'm trying, but yes, I love it.
At the end, it will be easier to edit eventually. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think. Yeah.
yeah. So that in it's Django in 2012. That was think it was like Django 1 point something probably or Django 2. I don't know. That it's a long time ago. I wonder if you had encountered any difficulties or other limitations when working with Django and Python back then.
So I think people can. It's archived now on GitHub, our repository from then, but they can go and still see the type of commits and PRs that we did in the past. They're not what I would do now, but I am not embarrassed from my beginnings. They can check out how we did Django then. Yes, there were plenty of growing pains. As somebody that only did C and C++ and thought in a very different way about programming, and I never did web before in the time, and it was all I had to start doing to apply for the GSOC. I really, really wanted it. And I was
Mm.
part of a hackerspace for those few years already. And it's lovely because when you're part of a hackerspace, you have so many people that are just there to hang out and hack and code and mentor. And there was a person called Vladan, which is shout out to Vladan if he ever hears this. And I remember that he was a great help to just push me to learn and get this through this growing pains faster. Yeah, I think there was a lot in the time that it wasn't just learning Django, which maybe I don't know. I think a big part of learning Django is learning how the web works when you're
Mhm.
beginning with
Mm.
Django. I think I knew theoretically from my studies because we did networking and so on. I have a
Mhm.
computer science degree that I did before that. By the time I had it finished by 2012, I started a master's. But yeah, I think it was just so lovely. And it was very different from my C and GTK experience the year before that.
Mhm.
It was no going back. But
Mhm.
it wasn't fully straightforward, that's for sure. It's hard for me to remember. It was 13
Yeah.
years ago.
I remember
Yes.
somewhere somehow in one of my high school or polytechnic days, we have basic computer science, and I learned C there, and I unseen it now. But
Unseen.
I see and I unsee.
Yeah, it was a lot. C was a lot. I think people still do it now, I guess, but
They are. They
like,
Yeah.
do. They
yeah,
do.
they do.
Well,
Yeah.
it's C Python.
Exactly.
We
Yes.
still use it when we build Python. It's still used. But yeah, I used Java and C Sharp before I learned Python. But once I use Python, yeah, this is the language I feel like makes sense to me. you know?
It's so
Yeah.
versatile. So in back
Mhm.
then I did web, and then I did
Mhm.
web for a few years. And then in 2015 I got a job where I used Python to write hardware bindings, which was for music instrument. It was really fun.
Ooh.
And then I transitioned to doing machine learning and
Wow.
NLP,
Wow.
which my degree is in. So Python is very versatile.
It
Yes.
is.
And
Yeah.
it's not just Django that's empowering. It's like you have
Mhm.
a language that will take you through all of this that you can lean back as a basis on. I love that.
Can you talk more about your involvement in the Python community? Like how, or I know you said you started using Django and Python, but that's using the language, but then you become involved in the community. Can you talk more about that?
Yes. So I guess getting involved in Python as a community is tightly related to my immigration because I come from a country that's now called North Macedonia. Wasn't called like this where I lived there, but so in there wasn't any separate Python community. Although I already contributed open source wise to Python, it was we were all one technical community, so to say. And since I was mostly, I was tightly intertwined with the Gnome community before, went to their conferences. I was involved in the pre-outreachy kind of groups and so on. I did program in Python, but I never saw the community as a separate thing. And when I immigrated, or I was trying to immigrate to Berlin in 2013, I get to know the PyLadies. The PyLadies, this were one of the first people that showed their welcome for me in the city. So it's still my longest standing relationship, and I really appreciate it. I don't think I would have moved if they did not were so welcoming to me. There's Maylee that I don't know if she's ever gonna hear this, but she's still my friend. And somehow I met her, and she invited me to give a talk about all this political projects I did, political related projects that were connected to raising awareness, and they were all in Python at the time, as I said, empowered to do everything. And I remember doing that talk. I don't remember anymore. I cannot find any of the slides, but I had to go back to where I was from because you cannot apply for a visa from Germany, and I had to figure all of that out. And when I came back, the community was there, and that was really great. And some of those people that I've met there are still some of my closest friends where I'm here.
Mhm.
So yeah, I have never been truly organizing in the community, but I've given several talks. My most recent one was in January. I always go back when I have something new and when I really want to share with the community. And I mentor in sprints. I've mentored Django girls and similar kind of events
Mm-hmm.
wherever there is help needed of the sort. Yes, so I guess in that way I do,
Wow.
except well, separate from my open source work. I
Yeah.
did. It's worth mentioning that during the pandemic and when I was a very new mom, that was more rare. I think I do a bit more now than I did in those years.
Wow. But that sounds a lot. Like you are still pretty involved. I mean, right from the beginning till what you're at right now, and like getting involved in code on the contribution, that's quite a bit of time there, and plus the community, plus getting sharing your knowledge to the community by giving talks, and then finally adding it to like giving mentorship, which is like wow, from zero to all the level, from beginners all the way to the expert levels. You cover everything. So
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, it's really amazing to see someone like you who's so um, passionate about sharing what you know to the community. And I think because of people like you, we get to learn more, and we get to understand
Mhm.
a lot more about how we can use the different cases, and how we can actually learn literally when you mentor people. So I'm actually very, very interested to know, like, how do you work on mentorship? Because I recently had a very interesting conversation with Django Not Space people, and we are talking about how we could actually improve on mentorship. So I would like to hear from your point of view, like, how do you actually started like mentoring people, and to get people to understand, or to get people to learn, because people, when they learn, they come from all walks of life.
I think I have to mention something. For me, mentorship is part of my core values,
Hmm.
and it's related to justice for me. I come from a working class family that didn't have a lot of resources, and it was really hard for me to stay and get access to more education. Programs like the way my hackerspace friends helped me with those Google Summer of Code projects made me pay off my student loans that I had, and I wouldn't be here without them. And the effort I do for me is just a way to keep this going, taking people with me on the journey, and it's never going to stop. It's just part of my ethos in a sense. So every time I show up with this in mind. So every time I get an idea to talk at the PyLadies, it's I learned this. I think in my last talk I said that my company also does certification for Scikit-learn, so maybe people should check it out. They're really doing a great job with it. And there was an expert topic they mentioned, and I was like, okay, they mentioned it as an expert topic as part of the expert certification. I'm making a talk immediately to bring it to the PyLadies because I want these people to leave the room feeling as experts in that
Mm.
night. So this is what guides me. What got me into this was this, of course, this experience with the hackerspace, which predates this immigration experience and all the more deep Python involvement.
Hmm.
And also, gained some skill by being a TA at the university. My
Mm.
first degree. That was a really long time. I think the skills were refined. I have a very different approach now than I had when I was a child at university, so to say, a young
Hmm.
person. Yeah, and for the how do we mentor? I think there as open source in open source contribution sprints or for people to get involved, there is a specific. I do have very specific ideas there that I'm trying now. As a first, I've been involved for so long, but I've never been a maintainer, and I've even had keynotes or talked to other people. I never had the chance to implement anything of what I've been saying. I could only hope that other people would implement it. And now I'm trying to pour into the project as much as I can. And it shows in the way we do our sprint and the way we
Hmm.
try to retain people. Some things for me that are really, really important are structure and
Hmm.
process and a focus on continuous involvement,
Hmm.
and I'm really trying to work on these aspects at the moment. So not just getting people in, we can do a sprint, but we want people to stay and work with us. We want them to feel
Yeah.
nice and welcome and necessary and useful, and to take this knowledge out as well, out in their other projects.
Could you share some examples of how you plan to implement this? Like, I know you mentioned you have some ideas and
Yes.
you felt like because you weren't a maintainer, you couldn't implemented this. And that's an interesting topic. Maybe I'll ask about it a little bit later. But now
Yeah.
you have these ideas. Can you share a little bit a snippet of what it is?
Yeah, I think for different projects, it will mean a different thing. So, for example, things that I've worked on recently that turned out to be great. I just, when was it? It was 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, we had a sprint. And
That's very recent.
Sorry, I know. But it wasn't the only sprint recently. So I spent 2 weeks before the sprint digging up first issues there was a gradation there, but they were all separate, not part of a giant one. They didn't involve so much thinking, but they were perfect for teaching the process and making a PR that can be also merged really quickly. So everybody that participated in the sprint made a PR by the end of it, and everybody was really happy. So we don't know how many of these people are going to stay, but for example, in our Discord channel, I constantly post whenever there is a new issue, how difficult it is. I offer help for people to continue. And we had, for example, from the PyLadies Con, we had a person that joined. I was just me online there. Not it was not in person, right? It was an online conference, and we had a person that did heard about the project, but didn't really had time to participate, and now is still one of our most active contributors. And
Ooh,
yes, shout out to Nika. Yes, she's lovely. And for example, right now she is interested in helping with some of the project management efforts that we're doing, and
wow.
it's really cool. We have an issue together at a link. She has been a collaborator to redo all the documentation for newcomers as well. The
Wow.
perspective of people new to projects is really, really valuable. And right now, I think this is the biggest project that I want to do. We seem to be attracting, and people are really happy at the sprints, but there is a bit of a structure and process lacking for them staying. And although we have a lot of downloads, as I mentioned, the project is really small. There are not a lot of maintainers that are very active, or just it's just a small project. It's okay as it is for just the maintenance, but for
Mm,
growing or for including people, we need to do a little bit more, and we want to. So right
yeah.
now I'm having an initiative to organize things in little groups, so people when they come into the project can be interested in a specific group, so to say. It doesn't have I mean they can also build expertise and be an expert person in the documentation. That is awesome, but it needs to be presented in a way that it shows a path. We don't have that right now. I think a lot of big projects definitely have this. That's why I say it's dependent on the project, or things like other types of improvements, because it's people come to a project, it's like, okay, I'm going to contribute, let's do this, a little bit of that. But a big Python code base doesn't have just one type of thing. Most
Yeah.
of the thing
Mhm.
I've been contributing for this last month have been scikit-learn cross compatibility, because I also work with scikit-learn and improving Fairlearn to be seamlessly used in the scikit-learn pipelines and so on. And this is just one type of thing. You don't have to be an
Yeah.
expert in anything. And I want to make this explicit by categorizing thing, so people can find their own niche and feel
Right.
confident in
Right.
it. So not just for example, the Fairlearn's methods are really require a bit of advanced knowledge in maths
Mm-hmm.
or statistics,
Mhm.
and this can be very intimidating. Somebody joined the PyLadies Con and told me that they felt more intimidating contributing to the Fairlearn campaigns than the Python core, which then I felt, okay, we
Really?
really need to, yes, fix this. Like, I think some of our methods look very cryptic. We are definitely working on fixing this. So this is one of the
Okay.
efforts. Yeah, so that's what I mean. You don't need to understand this maths. There's so many other places you could be essential. There's just so much work always to be done, but it's not explicit. And we're not showing people gradation, how they build the skills. There's also a lot of volunteer time is precious, and maintainers need to
Yeah.
support. Like as a maintainer, it's easy for me to get lost in my little technical hole, so to say,
True.
digging endlessly. But I think I'm more useful unblocking others and supporting the project to stay. So I'm doing the more grunty work myself, because I want others to, do this kinds of things. For our project, we don't have any of this, but I've been involved in projects like Gnome, which are my inspiration. I have to say, I don't know how it is right now. I have not been contributing for such a long time, and they had such strong organization, where you could feel that every contribution is really valued. Every type of contribution. That's something that we have lacking a little bit. Still, the code
Making
is
every
a king.
contributor feel appreciated.
Yeah, but also every type, not just the programming and
Yeah.
specific type of
Mhm.
programming being celebrated.
Yeah.
because
Mm,
everything is really valuable.
It's true. It's true.
yeah. I feel like the fact that you phrase it that way, I do feel there is this, how do I say it, like appearance, like that code contribution is being celebrated more compared to like other kind of contribution. Like it's hard to, yeah, I don't know how to
I mean,
how to address that.
every
Yeah.
contribution counts because
Yeah.
open source doesn't mean it's zero effort.
Hmm.
Anything that anyone volunteers to do something, it matters.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but I don't think that people feel this sometimes in the projects where they work. As somebody that has been mostly contributing code to projects and wanted to do other things, I could see the stark difference when I would
Mm,
be in the different types of contributing. And also when I did, for example, I did several jobs where I had developer relations jobs, and you could feel also the difference there.
mm,
Mm.
How you're perceived and how your contributions are perceived. I think that is a mindset, but it has to come from the maintainers, this.
true. There's also a very common discussion point that we talk about is that a lot of people, when they start sprints, it's really hard, like to prepare for the new contributors because sometimes a lot of maintainers, you're like you said, you're already really deep into your project, so your mindset is, I already know that. So some of the people who are new, they get to like confused, like even the very basic on like how to start and how to get things going. So like say for example, if there's one person coming to join, it's easy. What if like there's 10? How do you prepare to get so many different people to start? So I wonder if you have a specific idea how you manage that.
So for this particular sprint, I had 10 people, and I was the main
Exactly 10.
representative from my project. I do had some help
Short
from the second
telling.
learn people. It was lovely. Honestly, I think there's nothing that fulfills me more than a room of people getting to know and starting and seeing them glow by the end because they've made a PR. I That's it's just the most fulfilling thing ever. So how we prepare, there is an issue in Fairlearn, if anybody's interested, that I started to prepare for the sprint. I did it with Niha. Niha is great. Thank you, Niha, very much. My main collaborator on the issue. We did several points. One of them we still haven't fulfilled. And for example, we went through all the documentation, and Nika had ideas and rewrote some of it. It didn't have, for example, we didn't have a step explaining how to do a virtual environment because this is just I just don't think about it. But it's something that we should do. So we added these kinds of things. We redid some language, added some more links, added code of contact everywhere because we didn't have it in enough places. We redid the README so it's more easier for people to just jump on different places. What else? There's more things that we did. I don't remember. The only thing we didn't do was create videos for people to watch at home. That is coming next. I have a person that volunteered to do it for Windows. I don't have a Windows machine, and I will do it for Mac OS. And the main thing I did myself was digging out just the right type of issues because I did study a bit of cognitive science and early childhood development and language and so on. And one of the biggest interest that I have is learning and learning itself for the brain. And one of the biggest problems with language learning, for example, is the gap from B1 level to like getting the next levels. And this is because the gradation of tasks disappears. For somebody to be challenged but not overwhelmed and quit, you need the right type of task. It needs to be not too hard and not too easy. And this is how you go to the next level. And this is the same type of thinking has to be applied to an issue for a sprint, for example. If it's documentation works, there are not big hiccups. There's the issue itself is teaching you the flow, does not require an immense amount of digging. It's just loud. There are so many people. So somebody can do this semi independently after you have unblocked them in some way. That is a really good first issue. There could be a follow up, but the first issue should be really easy. It is a very hard thing for projects to. I hid them for good first issues labels, I put them under reserved for sprint for 2 weeks. So they were not available for the general public. This is, yes, that will happen every single time. But yeah, we had some for the public.
I see that you're contributing everywhere and things like that. Like, other than that, aside from code and community, do you do any other things? Like, do you have any personal interest or?
Yeah, yes. I'm I guess I spend most of my times when I'm not working or doing work related things or community things with my son. I have a child. He's gonna be 7 soon. Well, very soon. It's probably my favorite part of the day most of the time. Yes. I also have a little blog or a Substack, however they call this thing, newsletter these days. I moved my blog there, and I write about language, technology, and society, which are my main interests. I don't write very often, but if people want to hear me talk about these things, they could subscribe. Yes, I love to read, and I love literature and everything. Literature again ties to my love for language, I have to say. And I do take care of a lot of plants at the
Cool.
moment.
That's like a lot of things that you're organizing, right?
Those are the recharging things. Those my child and my books and my thoughts about language and society are just, it's where I draw energy from, and sprints, as I said,
I don't know.
and
That
happy
that
people.
sounds like decharging for me,
We all
but
have
it's
different charge, I
recharging for
think.
you. So it's like, uh, so
I do
with
understand.
so many things that you have in your mind, what is your plan? Like want to work next? Because it seems like you have some quite a lot of things going on, like the plans that you have in future.
I think in thinking about it a lot personally as well, I've spent the last 15 years really guided by curiosity and a giant desire for technical newness and depth, and just creativity of that kind. And these days, especially this year, I realized that more and more I get fulfilled by unblocking others and growing others and helping fostering environments where things can involve as many people as possible. So I think in the next few years I want to think and implement initiatives in the projects I'm involved in, or as my day-to-day job, where I can uplift others and empower and support and unblock people. I think that is my main focus at the moment, or I would like it to be. I'm still a software engineer mostly at the time.
Still, the idea of giving back, like what you learn, it just sounds so generous. Like whatever you learn, you just want to share and let everyone know what you learned.
I mean, I've been loved and helped, right? It's only just to continuously give back. So
Wow, we need 200 Tamaras out there, and the community will
there are,
thrive
there are.
immediately.
I think when I look at my friend Jessica Green, for example, you must know Jessica Green. There is one at least that I know. There's my friend Mei Lee and all of these other people that I'm in touch. They're just really, really generous. They've been generous with me, and I want to be generous with the world too, as much as I
Oh,
can. You know, we have seasons in life where we can't, and seasons in life where we can.
definitely.
This is one of those. We don't know how long they last. So yeah,
True. Well, we have to, I mean, to represent the community, I want to say thank you, because this is like really something that we need to celebrate and thank people like you who contribute so much and to put in so much time and even plan. You are even thinking like, what am I going to do next to make it better? That's like, wow, crazy.
thank you, but there's really no need. Definitely, I don't know. There are so many people that do way more. That's for sure. And you here, I mean, this is a lot of work.
So, if is there anything that you would like to share before we close this podcast episode? Like you would like to share with our audience on something that you would want to give a shout out to before we end this episode?
I think it would be nice if people try Fairlearn.
Hmm.
Give us an idea what they could use it for, and we always have good first issues. they can come work with us. We have a Discord community when we're always available, and I'm always happy to help people come into the community. So I guess an open invite to anyone that wants to join the project in some way and help with AI safety and algorithmic fairness.
So perhaps you could also give us where they could reach out to you if they would want to reach out to you for mentorship, you know?
I am on the PyLadies Slack channel, but if they're not a PyLady, I only have a LinkedIn account. I don't have any other
Mhm.
social media.
Okay.
And I don't know if Substack has some kind of feature to talk to people, but I think LinkedIn is probably better because I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
You can see my last name, I guess, in the recording, and then you can find me. And I'm happy to accept anyone that sends a request, of course.
Sounds good. So thank you very much, Tamara, for your time taken. It's still like I'm still so amazed by so much that you have done over the years.
Oh,
Uh,
please.
you can compile and probably it's like this thick.
It's been many years. There was time. Yes.
For all those who are listening, you can actually find us on Pi Podcasts. That's PyPodcats.live, LIVE, on YouTube channel, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. For this episode, you can also reach out to our website and get more information about the projects on Tamara and how you can reach Tamara too. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Thank you
Bye.
so much again for inviting me. Goodbye.